Hi everyone, Greg Heilman here with the Sound on Stage, and I'm joined today again by Bretteney Beverly as we go behind the curtain on her newest work as a director, Taproot Theater's A Raisin in the Sun, running on their Jewell Mainstage through April 19th. Welcome back to the show, Bretteney. It's great to see you again.
It is great to see you, Greg, and thank you so much for having me. Happy to be back.
And we were just talking about this before we started the interview. I saw in my Facebook memories a couple of days ago that it was about a year ago at this time that we talked about how to write a new book for the Bible, which a wonderful and thought-provoking piece. So a year later, happy to have you back and talk about A Raisin in the Sun. And congratulations on a great opening last Friday.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Now, first, I guess if you can clear something up for me. Is this the first show of the 2025 season? Because I know Lewis and Tolkien was on stage in the Isaac Studio in January
Yes.
and February, but was that not part of any particular season? Was that just kind of a one-off?
So it was part of our add-on for the season. So Raising the Sun does officially launch our 49th season in the Jewel main stage. And as we mentioned before, Karen and I, we had Lewis and Tolkien in the Isaac Studio at the beginning of the year, while we were doing renovations in the Jewel main stage. And so we were like, we still want to put out shows, right? We still want to give the audience something. But we knew we couldn't combine that with the Jewel main stage subscription. But the response that we got from Lewis and Tolkien was absolutely phenomenal. I'm so happy we decided to do that. And also, it gave us the opportunity, like I said, to do those renovations with the new seats, with the new carpets, with the new paint, all in the Jewel main stage,
Yeah.
and launch that with the Raisin in the Sun.
Seats are comfortable. It was but I didn't see anybody falling asleep, which tells you that the even though the seats were super comfortable, the show was engaging. So
It's a
wasn't like
happy balance, Greg.
yeah,
It's a happy balance.
wasn't like going to a planetarium when you get those really nice seats and half the people are leaning back looking up at the stars and are asleep by the time you're finished. But yeah, so okay, so that clears that up.
Mhm.
But and I thought, and I mentioned this in my review, that A Raisin in the Sun seems like the perfect show for Black History Month, which was in February. It's a good show for any time, to be frank. But how did the decision come about to include it in this season's schedule?
Absolutely. So if you remember, this was actually slated for last year's season, Raising in the Sun. And when Taproot announced that we were doing an emergency fundraising campaign, one of the things we decided to do was one, commit to doing a Raisin in the Sun this year, so in 2025, but we knew we needed to postpone it. And that simply just had everything to do with making sure that it had all the resources that we would give any of our other shows. So Karen and I thought long and hard, and it was a really difficult decision. A Raisin in the Sun has been on both of our short lists as producers for a very long time. So when we started working together 3 years ago, we knew we wanted to do it. And when the emergency fundraising campaign happened, we knew we were committed to doing it in 2025. But we also knew that we were doing the renovations. So it was that piece. It was like, so where can it fall? And we were like, this was out of everything that we have going this season, and we're still excited about Patsy Cline, about In Points Being Earnest and Murder on the Links. But we thought that A Raise in the Sun was just fitting to start our 49th season. Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, if people aren't aware, you've met that fundraising goal
Yes.
through both
Yes.
donations and ticket sales.
Yes.
And this is just I think from Karen's speech, I'm trying to remember, she said this is just the first part of your whole renovation strategy. There's going to be a new marquee. You're going to do a bunch of
Yes.
other stuff. So there's a lot of good things happening for you guys in the next couple of years.
Absolutely. We are super duper excited and so grateful for all the donations and our patrons for sticking beside us and helping us through last year. It was incredibly powerful just to see our community come together and rally behind us, and get us through that time. And just like we kind of felt like Karen and I, we were talking about it, although the grant that we received for the renovations is separate from the general operating fundraising that we did last year, it was almost like a reward for not only the staff and the board, but also for our audience with these renovations. So we're really excited about phase two, and can't wait for all those updates to happen.
Yeah, and I do feel like Taproot seems like you guys are so interwoven in the community. It makes sense that you were able to match that goal because you've got a lot of loyal
Yeah,
subscribers, which is great. But
yes, we do.
back to A Raisin in the Sun. So I'm looking. I've got the program right here in front of me, and I'm looking at this
Yeah.
cast, and I can't get over the talent that you've put together for this. From Orlando Smith and Sharmona Mitchell, Deja Culver, Marlette Buchanan. What a wonderful group. How did you get all of these phenomenal actors together in one place to put this piece together?
Um, Greg, I can't simply say that I'm lucky. I can't simply say that it's a blessing. Um, I have to say part of it, and I know it's the draw, and part of it's because I've been talking to the cast about it, but I think I owe a lot to Lorraine, and I owe a lot that for Black artists, this is our Hamlet, this is our long day's journey into the night. Like this is the epitome, right? This is what we long to do. And so I think just having Lorraine in this title, I was able to get a lot of this amazing, amazing, incredible Seattle talent. And you've seen the performances
Hmm.
it so I can't imagine having have had this experience without them. And one of the things we all just committed to was to tell this story as unapologetically and as truthfully as possible. And as you can see, this cast completely committed to that.
Oh yeah, and each one of them has a chance in the show to really make an impact on the
Yeah,
messaging of the show.
yeah,
And that even goes beyond them. And I didn't mention the supporting cast here. We've got Dimitri Woods. Well, and what a wonderful Nigerian accent. And Jin Hammond,
yeah.
I love Jin, and I've interviewed
Me
her
too.
as a dialect coach. She's just phenomenal. And we have George Murchison and Carl Linder. I'm actually reading the characters. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Donovan Mahana, Tim Gurin, and Jeffrey Cheatham II, rounding that out. And I left out one character, or actor, because I want to talk about him separately.
Okay.
But it's just a great cast, and even the supporting actors have a chance here to really impact the storytelling. So it's a really such a well written piece, and such wonderfully acted. Which does bring me to Channing. Is it Gistarb?
Yes.
Okay. Is he a newcomer? Is this his first show? Is obviously younger actor? And the question I have on that is how is it working with him in a
Oh
show where
yeah.
you've got these veterans, and then you've got him who's obviously on the younger side, working with him in this show.
Absolutely. So Channing, who is 11 years old, by the way, is not a newcomer. He has been working a lot with one of our show partners, actually, Acts on Stage. And they have a robust kids and teen youth program for theater kids. And they've come up through that pipeline. And one of the things that I went and talked to the leadership at Acts on Stage, Michelle Lane Raymond, Isaiah Anderson Jr., and I was just like, hey, I went to one of their teen summer musical intensive camps. And I spent like a day with them, and the talent that is coming from this program is just simply amazing. And so I was like, "Hey, I need a Travis," and I was like, I really need an understudy for a Travis." And I was like, "Can you all help?" And they were like, "Absolutely." And set me up with these auditions, and I met the kids, the young boys that we have playing Travis Younger, and obviously one of them was Channing, and I was just blown away. They have such a natural gift. They come in eager to work. I mean, quite literally, they are the future of theater, right? Of
Yeah.
this art form, right? And to know that we are in such good hands is amazing. The appreciation that they have for the art. Another thing that you mentioned, I have these veterans working with these kids, and I was really excited about it, especially because I had gotten the chance to see and work with them before the veterans, the older actors came along. But one of the things I talked about with them was the responsibility that we had in setting a good example for these young men. And all of them, every last one of them was game and on board. And one of the things we've taken a lot of time to ensure is that we all have a common language as a cast, as actors, as professionals. So even the younger kids can advocate for themselves.
Mm.
And the cast is just absolutely taken to that. And those kids love them. And I'm just so grateful for my cast and for the parents that have also taken these kids to and from rehearsals and these performances. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it worked out really well. I mean, Chen fit right in with the group, and uh, no didn't no misses or anything like that. So yeah, extremely talented young man there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. Um,
Oh,
the next thing is on the design side. Now, one thing I've noticed with Taproot especially, and it's in a way it behaves more like a community theater in that you have the
mhm.
same design team that is traditionally there. So you have Mark Lund, who's scenic and sound design. You've got blah, 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 blah. I'm looking here. Brian Engel's lighting design. So you have people that are familiar with the space, and especially on the set design, because
Yeah.
Taproot is so unique in its thrust configuration and the way the stage is in the back. Does it make your life easier as a director when you have a group that knows the space, especially when it's a unique one like that?
Mhm. I will have to say, yes, it does. Um, because Mark instinctually can read something. I can throw ideas at him and he can be like, yeah, we can do that. Or he'll say, let me think about it. I believe we can do it, but we got to get creative about how we do these things. And sometimes he's like, Brett, no, we cannot do that. Like some of the things I floated for Sister Act, he was like, Brett, we can't do those things. And Brian with lighting just knows our space so well. And him and I just have such a good back and forth relationship about he anticipates my needs as a director so well. And he's able to be like, I feel like I have an idea how we can deepen this moment and make it more intense or more dramatic or lighten it for that matter. But it absolutely makes it easier to work with them. And I'm so grateful for their insight. When I was talking about my vision for the show, I wanted the set to be an extension of of the cast, if you will. To me, it's like an additional character. It's part of what's keeping this family suffocated or hostage, if you will, right? And so I wanted it to be lived in. As someone who was born in Southside Chicago, these apartments are very familiar to me, and I wanted it to be worn down. I didn't want it to be in the best shape at all, which is obviously what Lorraine intended. But also, when I was talking to Mark about the set, I said I wanted the audience to kind of be an extension of this living room, and I wanted them to feel just as cramped as this family does, to feel just as suffocated as they do. I want us to, again, as I said before, to welcome in dialogue and in community. And as uncomfortable as it may be to witness some of the things that happen in the show, I think that was part of Lorraine's intention. And I think in many ways, as folks would look at our stage as probably a hindrance, to me, I welcomed it, and it actually I think has paid off. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There was one scene in towards the end, or Orlando leans back on this little, I guess it's an ottoman or something like that, and his head's upside down. He's looking
Yeah.
backwards, like looking straight at us. And I know it wasn't a funny scene, but I laughed because I'm looking straight at his face.
Yep.
The strangest thing, because he's right there,
He's
and
right there.
yeah.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah. So with that, with the uniqueness of the stage, are they is Mark and the creative folks, are they involved in the show selection process at all, with as far as
Mm.
expressing limitations that, hey, you want to do, I don't know, let's say you want to do Les Mis or something like that.
Yeah.
And they say, well, we can't do that because we don't have this, we don't have that. Are they involved in that process?
So Mark is because Mark serves as our director of production at Taproot. So he's a part of our selection process, but unfortunately, the other creatives are not. They come on board after we've selected the season and the shows, and then we contact them to see if they're available and willing to be a part of the show. But Mark does get to have a say, absolutely, about just because again he's worked at Taproot for 30 plus. I want to say almost 40 years. I honestly want to say 40 years he's worked at Taproot. And so he just knows that space in and out. And he knows a lot of our limitations. He, and bless Mark's heart, I'm so grateful for him. I'm sure I pushed him in every single show that I've done since I've been at Taproot. And he's only told me no a few times. And otherwise, he has found a way to make what I'm thinking in my head, which I'm not always the clearest because I'm like, Mark, you know the thing, you know what I need, and he makes it happen. I'm very grateful for him.
That's awesome. So what's next for you then at Taproot after this?
Yeah, after this, I'm really looking forward to. after this, I'm not directing, but Karen Lunn is directing Always Patsy Cline and Murder on the Links. And then I'll be directing The Importance of Being Earnest. And
Oh,
I am really excited about it. Taproot has a history of doing wild and doing style, and we are known for doing it well. So I plan to keep that up. Um, but I do also want to put my own take on it because we've
yeah,
done The Importance of Being Earnest before. And so I think audience can expect the excellency that normally comes with all Taproot shows, but a nice fun twist that
good.
I'm excited to reveal for us. Yeah.
Good to hear. Well, that is good to hear, and I can't wait to see them all. I have not seen either of the next two shows. I've seen Importance of Being Earnest at another theater, at a community theater. It'll be interesting to see your take on it. And I've not seen Always Patsy Cline, or you said Murder on the Links, right?
Yeah.
After that, so yeah, it should be a good season. And I think the theme was or is, and you'll have
Primed exposure.
yes,
Yes.
which is about taking lessons from the past and giving us hope for the future, which is something
Absolutely.
we all need right about now.
Absolutely, absolutely, Greg. And Karen and I are hard working on what our 50th anniversary is going to look like, especially thinking about the future. So again, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me and coming to see the show. And we just really appreciate you and all
Well,
that you do.
well, it's my pleasure, and it is, and A Raisin in the Sun. I recommend everybody go see it if they can. It's a wonderful, wonderful performance, and it's definitely a memorable show, and one that's gonna resonated with me. I mean, it's like I tried to explain in the review. It's not something that I can necessarily relate to because I didn't grow up in the South Side of Chicago and in those circumstances, but the way it's presented provides the ability to have empathy for these people
Yeah.
because they're human. At the end of the
Yes.
day, we're all human. We all have
Yes.
families. We all have struggles. We've all gone through financial, hardship. Well, most of us have. There's
Yeah.
people out there that obviously haven't, but things where we're struggling, we're having to make hard choices that aren't always the best ones. Um, but we do the best we can, and that monologue from Lena there, where she talks about how to judge people and
Yeah.
looking at them through love and the experience.
Yeah.
That's something my wife and I talked about a lot on the way home from the show. So that's one that to me stands on its own as one of the better monologues that's going to stick with me for a while.
Again, happy to hear it, and happy to hear that that's also part of Lorraine's intent and also mine for the story, is that even if you don't understand this walk of life that these folks have, this Black family has, there's something that everyone can relate to. I think, I was very purposeful about starting the show off, and you notice in a lot of silence and just watching a mom be a mom, getting
Hmm.
herself ready, getting her family ready. Most folks can relate to that. Most people can relate to their spouse waking them up before
Yeah.
they can get into the bathroom. Like there's something that you can identify with, right? And like you said, and even that you can empathize with, even if you
Yep.
don't know that walk of life, you can't relate to it. Lorraine has written human characters
Yep.
and this human story. And I think that's why it's stood the test of time. I think that's why it's an American classic. I think that's why it's a literary masterpiece.
Yep.
And I'm just so honored to bring this to our audience, specifically at this time and where we are.
Yep, it's just beautiful theater. So congratulations on that. And thank you again, Brittany, for taking the time to meet with me and talk about it. And again, I hope a ton of people come out and you sell out every show because you deserve it.
Thank you
Um,
so much, Greg. Thank you.
thanks, Bretteney Beverly. We've gone behind the curtain with A Raisin in the Sun, running on Taproot Theater's Jewell Mainstage through April 19th. I'm Greg Hyland with the Sound on Stage, and until next time, I will see you at the stage door.